Hello and welcome to the Armenian News Network Groong Week in Review. This show was recorded on December 13, 2022. I'm Asbed Bedrosyan, and here are the major topics that Hovik and I will touch on today. In the past 3 days, Azerbaijan has again blocked the Lachin corridor between Artsakh and Armenia, and now has also stopped the gas to Artsakh. It's an escalating blockade of over 110,000 population that is fast becoming a serious humanitarian issue. Then we continue to look at how the negotiations between Armenia and Azerbaijan are progressing in light of developments during this past week. We'll take a look at what all the military drills and posturing around the borders of Armenia mean to the region in light of the ongoing Turkish-Azerbaijani military exercises. Finally, we'll get impressions from Hovik and Benyamin from their travels in Syunik recently and also other regions. To talk about these issues, we have with us Benyamin Poghosyan, who is the chairman of the Yerevan-based think tank Center for Political and Economic Strategic Studies. Hello and welcome, Benyamin. Thanks for joining the show.
Hello, Aspet. Hello, Hovik. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
Thank you.
Well, the troubling news that we have to start with today is the blockade of the Lachin corridor, as well as now a gas cutoff, a humanitarian crisis in progress. As we have already covered last week, the Lachin corridor was blocked for a short time, for 3 hours. Well, this week, the staged environmentalist operation resumed. And at the time of this recording, the corridor has been blockaded for more than, 35, 36 hours. There is no sign of abatement. I think that there were reports of hundreds, if not thousands, or more Azeris, basically civilians, on the corridor that the Azerbaijani government has allowed, and they're trying to provoke the Russian peacekeepers. And earlier, as I said, Azerbaijan today cut the gas supplies. Hospitals, educational facilities, a lot of cars in Artsakh run on gas. They're all essentially sort of deprived of that. No medical aid can get in. There are reports that medical patients who need urgent medical care are not able to go to Yerevan to seek that care. Benjamin, can you provide us with your view of the situation, and what is the longer game for Aliyev here? What is he doing?
Okay, thanks. I believe there are different reasons behind these Azerbaijani actions. Reason number one, of course, to put more and more pressure on Armenians living in Artsakh and force them, or at least part of them, to leave Artsakh. Because Azerbaijan has a very clear strategy. Within 7-8 years, until 2030, the Azerbaijani population within the former Nagorno-Karabakh Autonomous Region, or within the borders of former Nagorno-Karabakh Autonomous Region. Azerbaijani population in numbers should be more than Armenian population. So this is Azerbaijani strategy. It's based on two actions. First, bring Azerbaijanis into occupied Shushi, into entire occupied Hadrut region and some other villages in other regions. This is number one. Number two is to force as much Armenians as possible to leave Artsakh. And again, Azerbaijanis put themselves a deadline that somewhere no later than 2030, within former Nagorno-Karabakh Autonomous Region borders, they should have more Azerbaijanis than Armenians. And this is number one priority for Azerbaijan. Even this is more important than kicking out the Russian peacekeepers.
Benjamin, is this because they are willing to go for a referendum after they see the demographics are going to favor the Azerbaijani population?
Theoretically, I even don't exclude that if the situation will be changed, I mean, geopolitical situation will be changed, and somehow these Madrid principles or whatever other principle will resurface, or Minsk group will resurface, or other international mechanism will resurface, and at the end of the day, people will say, okay, to finally settle this issue, we really need some referendum or expression of will. Then theoretically, of course, now Azerbaijan will reject this. This is the worst case scenario for them, any referendums. But they believe that, okay, if within former Nagorno-Karabakh Autonomous Region's borders, Azerbaijanis will be more Azerbaijanis than Armenians, then even in the worst case scenario, when again these Madrid principles or some new principles based on this idea of
self-determination.
Self-determination, then Azerbaijanis will be in safe side because no one will ask self-determination within November 10, 2020 borders. I mean, this is out of logic that someone will say, okay, let's organize referendum within borders defined by November 10, 2020 trilateral statement. This is simply not going to happen. And again, this is more important for Azerbaijanis than kicking out Russian peacekeepers, because if in 2030 Russians are still in Nagorno-Karabakh, but there are more Azerbaijanis in Nagorno-Karabakh within its 1988 borders than Armenians, then Azerbaijanis are happy. This is my very clear understanding. So, goal number one, to force as much Armenians as possible to leave Artsakh. Because look, first time they closed or blocked the road for 3 hours. Now road is blocked for 30, almost 30 or 36 hours. No one know when the road will be opened. But when the road will be opened, it will be clear signal to Armenians in Nagorno-Karabakh like, look, guys, first time it was 3 hours. Now let's say it was 48 hours, for example, or 72 hours. The third time, it could be 96 hours or it could be 1 week. So better not to wait the third blockade. Better to use this window of opportunity between second and third blockade and leave Artsakh. This is a very clear message sent by Azerbaijan. But this is strategic goal. I believe that there are also one tactical goal. Theoretically, I don't exclude that Azerbaijanis want to trigger some clashes, either between the so-called civilian protesters and Russian peacekeepers, or Azerbaijani so-called civilian protesters and Armenian protesters. They would like to trigger a clash. They would like to trigger a bloodshed and use this bloodshed to deploy Azerbaijani troops on the road, like officially, publicly, to say that, okay, look what happened. Azerbaijani citizens were wounded or killed on Azerbaijani soil, either by Russian peacekeepers or by Armenians. Both cases means that Russian peacekeepers are not able to fully carry out their responsibilities. So we need to deploy also Azerbaijani troops along with Russian peacekeepers. And they will say, okay, no one telling Russian peacekeepers pull out your checkpoints, but there will be Russian checkpoints, but also there should be Azerbaijani checkpoints. This is a one tactical goal for them, because if they are able to do that, then effectively the road will be closed, and this itself will trigger or will bring closer the first goal, to push as much Armenians from Artsakh as possible. But also, I don't exclude that there is a third strategic goal, but this strategic goal even is not strategic goal for Azerbaijan, because if as a result of all this, some clashes will happen between Russian peacekeepers and the so-called protesters, civilians, environmentalists, or whom Azerbaijanis are calling these guys, which are definitely organized all this by Azerbaijani state. But if clashes took place between Russian peacekeepers and these guys, and bloodshed happened, theoretically, this may significantly deteriorate Russia-Azerbaijan relations, create tensions in Russia-Turkey relations. Because definitely, if any Azerbaijani will be killed in current situation by Russian peacekeeper, regardless circumstances, definitely this is going to significantly and negatively impact also Russia-Turkey relations. And we all know that now Turkey played a significant role for Russia to circumvent Western sanctions, to organize these parallel semi-legal or illegal import-export operations. Now discussions are on the way for creating a Gulf hub in Turkey, which will allow Russia to sell some Gulf via Turkey. And in this context, I don't exclude that there are some forces outside even South Caucasus who would like to use these to trigger or bring about serious crisis on Russia-Turkey relations, and thus create significant additional problems for Russia. This could be second strategic goal, but this is not goal of Azerbaijan. Even this is not goal of Turkey. And we all know who will be happy to see Russia-Turkey relations collapsed.
Can you sort of elaborate on what the response globally has been to this so far? We just saw, like, I think, muted response from the EU. I mean, it was muted, but it was still at least named Azerbaijan as called on Azerbaijan to basically ensure the safe freedom of movement of citizens of Artsakh, and also called on Azerbaijan to refrain from, I guess, it mentioned the gas supply cutoff as well. So, do you think that the global or worldwide response is commensurate with the situation right now?
Definitely not, but unfortunately for us, or in this case, even for humankind, unfortunately, world has so many crisis situations, and this is not only the Ukraine. This is Ukraine. This is potential Turkish ground offensive in northeastern Syria, which will result in terrible situation in Yemen, and etc. etc. That yes, from our perspective, of course, these 100,000 Armenians living in Artsakh and being cut from the world now without gas. And theoretically, Azerbaijan may also cut electricity or even create problems for internet. This is definitely terrible. But if you are looking from a worldwide perspective, millions and millions of people are facing a terrible situation right now. So in this case, to hope that the fate of 100,000 Armenians living somewhere in mountains will trigger some worldwide response or worldwide criticism? Definitely no. What we saw as of now, there was President Putin phone calls with Aliyev and Pashinyan. Of course, we don't know the details and we don't know the text or the language used during these phone calls, but apparently the situation was discussed. So we have Russian intervention at the highest level, on president's level. And also today, Russian Ministry of Defense officially stated, yes, Azerbaijan is closed the highway and Russian peacekeepers are in negotiation with Azerbaijan to open this. And also, yes, we see some muted reaction from EU telling that, okay, the safe passage from Armenia to Karabakh should be restored. So, of course, it would be much, much better for us to see huge response from international community. But again, we should understand that currently there are too many crises spots in the world and too many potential crisis spots in the world. So unfortunately for us, this is not the number one priority, even in terms of crisis or even in terms of involved of people, because yes, 100,000 people is quite significant number. And for Armenians, this is huge because it's 100% population of Artsakh. But from worldwide perspective, this is not something like staggering numbers or astonishing number. Like, for example, if you look into the world media are telling that, for example, up to 10 million people in Ukraine, I'm not sure this is true or not, the numbers, but we all know that currently millions in Ukraine, they are facing the energy crisis, no electricity, no water supply, and the temperature is below zero in Ukraine also. And I'm speaking all about Ukraine. So unfortunately for us, this is not the unique situation in the world that hundred or tens of thousands people are facing some very tough conditions.
Benjamin, you mentioned the negotiations. Last week, we talked at length about the current state of the negotiations between Armenia and Azerbaijan. At this point, any expectations for a so-called peace deal by this year's end are unlikely to come true.
No.
Late in November, Ilham Aliyev pulled out of the Brussels summit, which was set for December 7th, this past week. Azerbaijan says that he pulled out because of a new condition by Armenia for French President Emmanuel Macron's participation in negotiations alongside Charles Michel of the EU. Observers, however, say that Macron has been involved from the start, and it is Aliyev who is advancing new conditions because he doesn't like what he's getting in Brussels. Because while the EU sort of slants pro-Azerbaijani, France is more of a balancing factor. Now, the Russians have been quick to say Brussels is dead. So the question is Brussels dead?
Okay, first of all, I believe now no one speaks about peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan, not only by the end of 2022, which means within 17 days, but also no one is expecting peace agreement early 2023. Second, I believe Armenia should be interested to keeping up Brussels format. I mean, first of all, if Brussels format is dead, it means we have only two formats, Russian and Washington, which automatically means that all this process will be fully put in the framework of Russia-US hybrid warfare. And I don't believe that Armenia will gain anything. While EU was somehow at least a relatively neutral platform. Yes, Russians were unhappy also with EU involvement, but Russians are much more unhappy with American involvement than EU involvement. For example, I can assure you that if instead of these European 40 civilian observers, American 40 civilian observers will be or would be deployed on Armenia-Azerbaijan border, Russia's reaction would be much tougher than, for example, this EU when Russia's reaction on deployment of EU observer mission. So again, Armenia should be interested in keeping this Brussels format. And let's not forget that any format, any negotiation somehow decreases the possibility of Azerbaijani military escalation. And this is a primary tool for Azerbaijan to put pressure on Armenia. Do this, or you will face military escalation. Do that, or you will face military escalation. And any negotiation format decreases, does not prevent, but decreases the possibility of new military escalation by Azerbaijan. So I think Armenia should do everything to revive this Brussels format.
Mm-hmm.
Frankly speaking, I'm not sure what happened with President Macron, because yes, okay, Macron participated in the first summit in December 2021
right.
in Brussels. But let's not forget that initial meeting, it was between Michel, Aliyev, and Pashinyan in December 2021. Macron joined later. So it was something like an additional summit. So originally, even in December 2021, there was no Macron. And there was 3 meetings or 3 summits in Brussels, April 6, May 22, August 31, where there was no President Macron. So, of course, if we believe that EU was not an honest broker or Charles Michel was pro-Azerbaijani, then we decided to bring back President Macron somehow to balance Charles Michel. I'm not sure this is a good idea or not, but first we have to accept the fact that mostly Brussels format is not 2+2. Michel, Macron, Aliyev, Pashinyan. Brussels format was about 1+2. Michel, Pashinyan, Aliyev. And even if Armenian government believes that Michel is pro-Azerbaijani, which I'm not sure this is the case or not, but in any case, if we have 2 options, to kill Brussels format or to continue in the format of 1+2 or 2+1, I believe it's for Armenian interests to continue 2+1. And also, let's not forget that on December 19, European observers leave Armenia because their 2-month mandate expires. But on December 20, need assessment team will arrive in Armenia to assess the possibilities of deployment of new observer mission somewhere in 2023. But if Brussels format of negotiation is dead, it will be complicated to bring EU observers here because, as far as I understand from European perspective, EU observers are here as a part of bigger peace efforts facilitated by the European Union.
Right,
So
but just yesterday, just on Friday, I think I heard from Josep Borrell that they are not planning to extend the mission at this point in time. So they're going to wrap up on December 31st, they said.
Look, no. First of all, they are going to wrap up on December 19. But what Borrell said that on December 20, the need assessment team will arrive in Armenia to assess the possibility of some mission in 2023. So yes, there will be no automatic extension of the first mission. It will expire on December 19, and these 40 observers will leave on December 19. But immediately, the next day on December 20, new need assessment team will arrive in Armenia. But again, as far as I understand, this EU mission is valid or has any sense from European point of view if it's part of bigger peace efforts facilitated by European Union. If there are no peace process facilitated by European Union, I'm not sure that it will make sense for European Union to send observers here. So even from
understandable.
Point of view, if we want EU observers, and definitely we should want any observers, including EU observers along Armenia-Azerbaijan border, it will be better to do everything to revitalize or to prevent the final death of Brussels format. And even if the only way to keep Brussels format alive is to continue or to come back to this 1+2 format, Michel, Pashinyan, Aliyev, I would advise our government to do that.
Okay. So a lot of observers actually thought that since the conflict in Ukraine started, Russia no longer has the bandwidth to deal with the South Caucasus. But we saw that with a single summit in November, this was the one in Sochi, Putin brought back the negotiations back to Russia, essentially. What are the fundamental factors that are swinging Armenia and Azerbaijan to come back to the table in Russia, Benyamin?
Okay, definitely significant part of Russian resources and Russia's focus, they are on Ukraine. And not on Ukraine, but at least from Russian point of view, significant resources are focused on Russia-US war. You may call it hybrid warfare or whatever you call it. Russia's perspective, now there is a Russia-US war. And we all understand that, yes, maybe US is not the sole hegemonic power as it was in 1990s, immediately after the collapse of Soviet Union, but still, United States possesses enormous power, economic power, military power, I don't know, financial power.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are trying to fight United States, it's a terrible task. And if you are trying to fight United States plus entire NATO, plus Japan, South Korea, Australia, New Zealand, and etc., this is, I will say, is not a terrible task. It's almost mission impossible. So definitely Russia should concentrate almost all its efforts and resources on this. But I believe it's preliminary to say that Russia forget about South Caucasus, that Russia forget about Central Asia, I don't know, Russia forget about anything else. And it's fully concentrated its attention on its warfare with US. Because at the end of the day, even if you look into South Caucasus, so if somehow Russians will be kicked out from Nagorno-Karabakh and Russian military base will be kicked out from Armenia, Russian border troops will be kicked out from Armenia, this also is a part of US-Russia hybrid warfare. And this will be victory of US, at least a regional victory in South Caucasus. So even if we look this only through the lens of Russia-US hybrid warfare, Russia is interested to keep its presence in South Caucasus. Now, my understanding is that it's early to say that Russia is fully out of South Caucasus. Now, regarding the question how Russia convinced Armenia and Azerbaijan to come to Sochi, in any case, let's not forget that Russia has military presence here. It's the only power which has military presence here. I mean, in Nagorno-Karabakh, in Armenia, and despite all these discussions that, okay, Russia is very close to its collapse, that within 1 year, some 10 independent states will appear in the territory of Russia, like Republic of Siberia, Republic of Tatarstan, I don't know, Confederation of North Caucasus, and etc. I think that this is mostly wishful thinking. So Russia still possesses some resources to do something in South Caucasus. And the Sochi summit, and as I mentioned in some of my papers, the primary goal in Sochi summit was not to reach a peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan. The primary goal was to send a clear message to everyone that, look, Armenia and Azerbaijan still, they have significant differences. And it's simply impossible to sign a peace agreement by the end of 2022. And this idea, peace agreement by the end of 2022, this idea is an American idea. And the first time when this idea came around, it was after September 27 meeting in White House between Secretary of Security Council of Armenia and the top foreign policy aide to President Aliyev. So I believe organizing the October 31 summit, the Russia's goal was to prevent American plans of signing this peace agreement by the end of 2022, because the Russians are very clear. This is very clear Russia's understanding that by facilitating any peace agreement between Armenia and Azerbaijan, the US does not care neither about Armenia nor about Azerbaijan, and definitely nor about Armenian population in Nagorno-Karabakh. The United States wants only two things. First, kick out Russian peacekeepers from Nagorno-Karabakh. Second, kick out Russian military base and border troops from Armenia. So from Russians' perspective, the only reason why Americans were involved and are involved in Armenia-Azerbaijan negotiations, again, the only reason is to kick out Russian peacekeepers from Artsakh and kick out Russian military base and border troops from Armenia.
So does this current re-involvement by Russia at this point in time mean that Russia has essentially normalized or adapted to the ongoing war in Ukraine? And in a sense, this is now the new normal for them?
I will say that this is a new normal. Economically, Russians understand very well that, for example, 2023 will be much more difficult than 2022. They say, yes, the West failed to knock out Russia's economy and kill Russia's economy very quickly by putting, I don't know, hundreds or thousands of sanctions within several months. Yes, the West hoped to knock out or kill Russian economy within several months. It failed, but these sanctions have cumulative effects, and Russians, they are clearly stating that economically 2023 will be more difficult than 2022, and even maybe 2024 will be even more difficult than 2023. But again, this is a Russian perception that Russia is far away from being collapsing or dismembering or etc.
Okay.
Benjamin, another interesting thing is that in the past couple of months, Pashinyan has been hinting at some form of international guarantees being needed for Armenia's security. in order to sign a peace deal in the West. There were no responses from the EU or the US. Do you believe this was a sort of just an ad hoc expression of desire, or was there? Do you think the Western deal may involve some kind of security guarantees as well?
As far as I understand, the Western deal, or officially, it was interesting because some month ago, Armenian official position was that there are no Western draft agreement, no Russian draft agreement. There is only one draft agreement presented by Azerbaijan. I believe 2 weeks ago, Armenia officially stated that now we have two draft agreements, one Russian and one Azerbaijani, but the war continues on Azerbaijani draft. But uh, based on the ideas of the Western ideas, okay, let's assume that really there is a no text prepared by the EU or by United States, but definitely there are some ideas, at least prepared or delivered by United States. And according to these ideas, some international guarantees should be provided not to Armenia, but to Nagorno-Karabakh Armenians. And we all remember these talks about international mechanism to facilitate some negotiations between Azerbaijan and Nagorno-Karabakh. And according to our Secretary of Security Council, Azerbaijan even agreed to establish international mechanism during the meeting on September 27. But we all know that after that, many times publicly, both President Aliyev and Hikmet Hajiyev and the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they publicly rejected, telling that Azerbaijan will never accept any international mechanism on discussions between Azerbaijani government and Azerbaijani citizens of Armenian origin. They said that this is an internal affairs of Azerbaijan, and Azerbaijan government should decide itself how to speak with its citizens of Armenian origin or with Armenian community of Azerbaijan. Frankly speaking, I am waiting for Jake Sullivan's statement because he was in the room on September 27. So Armen Grigoryan is telling that Hikmet Hajiyev agreed on international mechanism. Hikmet Hajiyev is telling that this issue was discussed, but I never gave any agreement. Then Armen Grigoryan stated that, but Sullivan was there, so he could confirm that Hikmet Hajiyev agreed. But unfortunately, we have no statement neither from Sullivan nor from John Kirby. I believe now John Kirby is a strategic communicator of U.S. National Security Council. So let's hope that either Jake Sullivan or John Kirby will issue a statement and they will say, did Hikmet Hajiyev agree to establish international mechanism, or Armen Grigoryan offers this and Hikmet Hajiyev rejects this? And what is the American position about this? Because also we didn't hear official American position. Does United States support the idea of establishing international mechanisms for negotiations between Azerbaijan and Nagorno-Karabakh? Again, not between Azerbaijani government and Azerbaijani citizens of Armenian origin, but between Azerbaijani government and Nagorno-Karabakh. But obviously, Azerbaijan, frankly speaking, I am not sure. Maybe Hikmet Hajiyev agreed to this on September 27 under the closed doors for some reasons. But frankly speaking, I don't believe that Azerbaijan will agree on any international mechanism for negotiations between Azerbaijan and Nagorno-Karabakh, which means that these American ideas that, okay, Armenia recognizes Nagorno-Karabakh as part of Azerbaijan in theory, but then under the international mechanism, negotiations continue between or start between Azerbaijan and Nagorno-Karabakh regarding the right or security of Nagorno-Karabakh Armenians, these ideas were rejected and are being rejected by Azerbaijan. So, okay, Azerbaijan rejects these Western ideas on or at least American ideas on international mechanism. And we all know that Azerbaijan rejected a Russian draft of peace agreement, according to which there should be a separate clause clearly stating that the Nagorno-Karabakh issue is not solved and Armenia and Azerbaijan will continue open-end negotiations to reach the solution. So Azerbaijan rejected this Russian draft agreement. And also Azerbaijan rejected American ideas to establish international mechanism to launch negotiations between Azerbaijan and Nagorno-Karabakh. So what does it mean? But the Russians are also telling publicly that we are not able to force Azerbaijan to accept our vision. Yes, we have this vision. We believe that the best option is to fix that Nagorno-Karabakh issue is still there and it should be solved in the future through negotiations. This is our vision, but we are not able to force Azerbaijan to accept this vision. So if Azerbaijan rejects this vision, it means that a Russian draft will not become a final peace agreement. But Azerbaijan also rejected American ideas of international or establishing international mechanism, which means that theoretically, American ideas also cannot become final peace agreement. So probably Azerbaijan demands that Armenia agrees on its version of peace agreement. We know that Azerbaijan presented peace agreement. Armenia gave some suggestions. Azerbaijan sent it back. Now we sent additional suggestions. So we can make a clear understanding of all this, that Azerbaijan wants that Armenia agrees to all its demands within its draft peace agreement.
Okay,
And
so
frankly
Benjamin,
speaking,
speaking of these drafts, Armenia just confirmed that they've received the latest draft from Azerbaijan and they're working to respond to it. Can you talk a little bit what the current back and forth of drafts is primarily about?
frankly speaking, there are no public available information, but what we are hearing from Azerbaijani side, Azerbaijanis are stating very clearly that Armenia should sign document which first will fix that Armenia accepts that there is no Nagorno-Karabakh as territorial administrative unit. This is number one key demand from Azerbaijani side. And I believe the second key demand is that Armenia should provide these corridors or routes via Syunik or via Vayodzor or both via Syunik and Vayodzor from Azerbaijan to Nakhchivan, and some spatial modalities should be created for these roads. So these roads cannot operate within the normal, under the normal Armenia's legislation. So I believe that Azerbaijan wants these two things to be fixed in the document, alongside with other general statements about territorial integrity, diplomatic relations, and other blah blah.
In another thread with Aliyev, he said that Azerbaijan is willing to talk with Karabakh, but not with Ruben Vardanyan, whom he called a Russian agent. Our Artsakh authorities have been in Moscow and France recently, meeting with the officials in those countries. Given that Armenia seems to have politically abandoned Artsakh, is Russia changing tactics to work bilaterally with Artsakh at this time?
Okay, I believe yes, and frankly speaking, I'm not sure how much direct connections were between Artsakh and Russia prior to 2018, or at least prior to 2020 Nagorno-Karabakh war. But definitely now, yes, I believe Russians, they have some direct channels with Nagorno-Karabakh authorities, at least with President Aray Karuchunyan, and probably also with current State Minister Ruben Vardanyan. And also one thing is interesting, or I would say even strange, when many Armenians and even the members of ruling parties, they are discussing the current crisis. I mean, starting from yesterday when Azerbaijan blocks the road, they are telling that, okay, this is Russia's problem. This is Russia's peacekeeping problem, peacekeepers' problems, and they should solve this problem. I believe this is a very wrong message, both to Azerbaijan and also to international community. Not to Russia, but also to the entire international community. Because if you are telling that the fate of Armenians living in Artsakh, and we are speaking about minimum 100,000 people, if not more, if you are telling that the fate of these people or the life of these people, because this is a real issue of life and death, this is not the issue of our people are, I don't know, enjoying smart TVs or not smart TVs. This is the issue of life and death. If Armenia's position is, and we hear statements from ruling party's faction, no one rejecting this, I mean, higher representatives of party, that, okay, this is Russia's problem, the life or death of Armenians living in Nagorno-Karabakh. This is Russia's problem and not Armenia's problem. This is a very wrong message to any external player involved in regional geopolitics, to Azerbaijan, to Turkey, to Iran, to Russia, to United States, to European Union. Because what does it mean? It means that, okay, at the end of the day, this is not a, if not a priority, this is even not, you don't believe that this is your problem. But if fate of Armenians in Artsakh is not Armenia's problem, then at the end of the day, everybody will understand that, okay, if Armenia does not care, okay, Russia may care because of geopolitics, France may care because of geopolitics, Russia may care because of humanitarian reasons, France may care because of humanitarian reasons, I don't know, Iran may care with geopolitics reasons,
Yeah.
US may care geopolitics,
But they are
France
not existential
humanitarian
problems.
reasons. Yet the fate of Armenians are not existential, and this is not Russia's land. Let's not forget that Artsakh is not Smolensk or Kursk. It's not a Moscow Oblast. And to say that, okay, the fate of Armenians living in Artsakh and the fate of this land, this is Russia's problem, and the fate of this cultural heritage, which is part of Armenian nation cultural heritage, to say that, okay, this is a problem of Russia to protect Armenians, to protect them or save them from death, or save Armenian cultural heritage. Okay, why is a problem of Russia, frankly speaking? Okay,
Right.
because Russia signed November 10 trilateral statement, but we see that even treaties are being broken. Treaties are being broken. And we are speaking not even about a treaty which was ratified by Russia's parliament. We are
Just an
speaking about
agreement.
some statement, even
Yeah.
not an agreement. It was a statement. So it's really sending wrong messages to external players, because yes, we fully understand that currently Armenia has very few possibilities to influence situation in Artsakh. We really have few, if any, tools to impact situation in Artsakh. But it's one thing to have no tools to impact the situation in Artsakh. It's absolutely different thing to say that this is a Russia's problem. So we should understand this, because many people in Armenia saying, okay, but what do you want? What Armenia can do? Should Armenia send troops to Lachin to deblockade the road? Of course, no, we cannot do this, because military balance is usually in favor of Azerbaijan. We can't do this simply because our troops will be killed. Then Azerbaijan will launch large-scale attack. I don't know, will bomb Jerbu, Goris, even Yerevan, etc., etc. Yes, this is fully understandable, and no one expects that Armenian army should start military operation for deblocking of Lachin road.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that Armenian army is not able to deblock Lachin road or Gori Stepanakert highway, it absolutely does not mean that Armenia publicly should say that this is Russia's problem.
Benjamin, so what do you think are the expectations from Ruben Vardanyan? What do you think he brings to the table as State Minister for Artsakh?
Okay, first of all, I believe he should bring some fresh mindset, maybe even some business mindset, but business in not a term like transactional policy, like that for former President Trump, US. Yes, there was this negative attitude that President Trump is too transactional or business approach. But
Yeah.
definitely, I believe first, Ruben Vardanyan brought some fresh blood and also some fresh way of thinking, and also his experience in business sphere and in crisis management. Because if this is my understanding, if you are dealing with huge business assets with billions of dollars, you also should be very skillful in crisis management. And here I believe the crisis management skills of Mr. Vartanyan will be very useful for Artsakh.
Benjamin, let's talk a little bit about the Turkish-Azerbaijani military exercises, which I believe are still going on. In the past 2 weeks, Azerbaijan and Turkey held war games all along the Iranian border in the regions of Astana, Imishli, and Cebrail, Jirakan in Armenian. The nature of these military exercises indicate that they're pointedly aimed at Iran. Turkish Defense Minister Hulusi Akar and many high-level Turkish military leaders traveled to Azerbaijan to attend the high-profile drills named Fraternal Fist. Something with Fist and Aliyev. Interesting. In October, Iran's military also held drills across the border, and the situation remains tense. Obviously, they're not happy with Azerbaijan, which is reportedly giving a foothold to Israel along the border with Iran as part of its military alliance with it. And Azerbaijan has also been trying to stir ethnic tensions in Iran's Azeri population. For us, these drills indicate that the disagreements on the issue of Armenia's borders have not died down. Iran is unambiguous about its red line that Armenia's borders will not change. Where do you think this military dialogue, in quotes, between Turkey and Azerbaijan and Iran is headed?
Definitely, I fully agree with your assessment that these drills were some signal to Iran that, okay, if you will put real military pressure on Azerbaijan, or if you, for whatever reasons or in whatever circumstances, will start military actions against Azerbaijan, then you will face not only Azerbaijan but Turkey. I believe the key message was this, that, okay, guys, if you are seeing that you can send Iranian troops to Nakhichevan or you can send Iranian troops to Talish inhabited regions of Azerbaijan, then it automatically will mean Iran-Turkey war. And we all understand that war with Turkey is not something which Iran is dreaming about. I believe the key message was this: any attack against Azerbaijan, it automatically trigger a Turkey-Iran war. Regarding all this could bring Iran, Turkey, Israel, and Azerbaijan, frankly speaking, I don't believe that Iran will start war against Azerbaijan and Turkey, because again, there's a no Iran-Azerbaijan war. Iran-Azerbaijan war, it means Iran-Azerbaijan-Turkey war. and Turkey directly involved. If Israel will be involved in directly sending weapons, military advisors, or organizing some subversive actions inside Iran using its spy network, Turkey will be directly involved. Like it will be direct military Iran-Turkey clash. So given all this, I don't believe that Iran will do this. Only one option is possible here. If Azerbaijan starts large-scale attack against Armenia to physically open the Zangezur corridor, I mean, occupying is a part of Vyodor region or part of Syunik region, or simultaneously trying to occupy part of Vyodor and Syunik region and establish the Zangezur corridor or even two corridors, then in this case, theoretically, Iran may start military actions. But even in this case, I'm not sure that Iranian troops will enter Azerbaijani territories in Nakhichevan or in Talish inhabited regions. Iran may send troops to Armenia to support Armenians. But if there is no large-scale attack by Azerbaijan, again, with clear goal to establish by force the Zangezur corridor, I don't see any real or any likelihood of Iran-Azerbaijan-Turkey war.
Should Russia be concerned about the Turkish-Azerbaijani military alliance in context of this confrontation with Iran and the possibility of war?
Regarding the Azerbaijan-Turkey military alliance, Russia is concerned. But interestingly, as far as I understand, Russia believes that at the end of the day, Ilham Aliyev also is concerned about growing Turkish influence in Azerbaijan. And the Russians believe that Ilham Aliyev will do everything not to be fully under Turkish control, because at least from Russia's perspective, Ilham Aliyev is not the most favorable person in Azerbaijan for Turkey, because at the end of the day, he has connections with Russians. His father was Soviet or Russia KGB general. He got education in Moscow. He has connection with Russian elite, etc., etc. So probably Aliyev understands that if Turkey will establish full control of Azerbaijan, then Turkey most probably will kick out Ilham Aliyev from power. Let's not forget that Turkey organized two coups d'etats against Heydar Aliyev in 1995 and 1996.
Right.
Coup d'etats against Heydar Aliyev. Definitely son remembers the history of his father. So I believe that Azerbaijan and Aliyev, or at least personally Ilham Aliyev, will try to keep also some relations with Russia, trying to somehow balance the full Turkish control of Azerbaijan with relations with Russia. So from Russian perspective, yes, there is a military alliance. President Aliyev and Erdogan are speaking that they are brothers. They are signing Shushi Declaration, visit, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, President Aliyev will prevent the full control of Turkey over Azerbaijan, because President Aliyev fears that in that case, he will be kicked out by power as a result of another coup d'etat.
All right, I'm going to wrap up our main topics here because I know that both of you have been traveling in the past couple of weeks, and I wanted to ask each of you to give some reflections to share from those trips. Hovik, I'll start with you. You went to Syunik province in the last few days. What were your impressions of the region, the roads, the checkpoints, the general mood of the population? Can you talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, I definitely. I spent a few days in Goris, after which I drove down to Mehri, and I wanted to sort of explore what the status of the roads there. I guess driving to Goris is no problem. It's as always has been before. But from Goris to Mehri, you have to go through Kapan first, and for that we used the newly built bypass road between Goris and Kapan that takes us through Tatev. So it's a little bit further from the road, the main Goris Kapan M12 highway that Azerbaijan took over, and actually basically Nikol Pashinyan gave it to Azerbaijan, saying that this was Azerbaijani land. I don't know if he used Google Maps or his dad's maps or his grandma's maps, but whatever. The situation is that this road, I mean, although it was in relatively good condition, it's very narrow, and Iranian trucks are frequently traveling through it, and that's the main road that they use. But anyway, so we reached Kapan.
Is the road robust enough for the traffic?
I mean, it's a one lane in either direction, and you frequently have to pass the large trucks. So, and even in certain areas, I think it's so narrow that the trucks have a hard time climbing it. It's very also steep at points.
Yeah, I've seen pictures where the trucks actually have to get on the shoulder to make enough room for each other.
Yeah, and in fact, we encountered several trucks that were unable to conquer the hill and were awaiting for being towed. But other than that, I think it was okay. The asphalt was fresh. From Kapan, there's two ways you can get down to Mehri. One of them is to use a road through Kajaran, the M2 highway, and that takes us to Kajaran, then Lichk, then Vartanizor, and so forth. And you go to Mehri. So we went to Mehri. Mehri is very beautiful, even at this time of year. I shared some pictures on my Twitter. Basically, it's the landscape changes. You go down from Kajaran or Kapan, which is about, I don't know, 900 meters above sea level to down to 500 in Mehri. And even the climate there is much warmer and it's beautiful. Like Mehri is always sort of covered with this layer of clouds, which is very picturesque.
The pictures look beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. So we went to Mehri. We went to Agarak, which is the town where the Iran-Armenia border checkpoint is. We checked that out. It was pretty, it was new to me, so I'd never been there. And then we decided to go back to Kapan using the alternative, the bypass road to the Kapan Jakaten. This is the other segment of the M12 highway that Nikol Pashinyan, based on his grandma's maps, gave to Ilham Aliyev. And this also was basically the road was okay at parts, but when you reached Vorotan, it was completely messed up. So that's all for the condition of the roads. It was also narrow, and at some points it was, I think, about 50 to 100 meters from the M12 highway, the one that Azerbaijan now controls. And I think that it doesn't take a genius to understand that this is a huge security risk. This road, if the sort of violence starts again, God forbid, this road will be a prime target. So yeah, we passed through a lot of villages on the way. Nice, very picturesque.
Did you stay in the region? Are there hotels or Airbnbs and such facilities to take advantage of?
I spent 2 nights in Goris and I spent a night in Mehri. We got I think through booking.com, we got we got a few rooms at someone's house.
Mm-hmm.
So So basically, we drove up and then from
Hovik,
Kapan,
did you cross any checkpoints?
Yes, there were a number of military checkpoints from Russian and Armenian side. I think it's I mean that's they do ask to see IDs if you're not a local resident. And overall, that road was not very traveled.
Did you ever feel like you were in targeting range of Azeri outposts or anything? Did you feel unsafe anywhere?
I mean, of course, Aspet, we're driving 50 meters next to the Azeri roads, and yeah, you try not to stop too much, but also even just sort of stopping and looking. I mean, we didn't try to be visible to the Azeris too much, but we talked to some villagers, and they said basically the Azeris they pointed us in the general direction, and basically these villagers have to live every day with that feeling, and it was not a pleasant feeling.
Yeah.
And, I mean, many of these villages have become basically border outposts overnight, and I don't know what percentage of the population now lives in that village. I mean, I think it's more populous during the summer anyway, but there were some villagers that we talked to, and I mean it was overall a tense feeling that I got, especially with all these news about the Lachin corridor being blocked.
Well, this is really important to know.
Yeah.
Benjamin, you were traveling, I think, to Syunik a couple of weeks ago. I wanted to ask you your impressions of your trip. Also, at the same time, I know that you had other travels more recently where you met some other analysts, and I want to ask a little bit about what was discussed, what your impressions are of the geopolitics going on right now.
Okay, I was only in Goris, and yes, the highway Yerevan-Goris is secure enough. Also, as a result of September 13-14 Azerbaijani attacks, now part of the highway, at least starting from the beginning of the Syunik region, so-called Zanger, and up to Sisyan and going to Goris. As far as I understand, Azerbaijanis theoretically can also hit, if not by rifles, but some a little bit longer range weapons, even they can hit this main highway, which passing from to Sisyan and then to Sisyan to Goris. But in any case, you feel secure. In Goris, there are a lot of hotels. and it was touristic boom at least before COVID and before 2020 war. But in Goris, yes, there are many facilities. We have several discussions, meeting with like young populations there. The thing which was surprising for me is that even people, not only from city Goris, but also some villages which are located now 1 kilometer or even less than 1 kilometer away from Azerbaijani troops. And these people told me that, okay, even some villagers told that from our window, without any special devices, you can see Azerbaijani soldiers from window of their houses of the villages. But even people who, like, they are living in the situation when simply Azerbaijanis can kill them by rifles. Many of them were speaking about let's kick out Russians from Armenia, Russian military base from Armenia, let's withdraw from CSTO. I don't know, French troops will come, will save us, will France will start war with Azerbaijan. And frankly speaking, it was strange for me because it's not even science fiction, frankly speaking, but this is what we
Where
have.
is this worldview coming from? It's very
Frankly
strange.
speaking, I believe this worldview coming from because people are watching TV channels or these internet TVs or Facebook posts. You know that there are lots of such discussions in Armenia or discussions or analyses that Russia is Armenia's enemy, that Russia even worse than Turkey, or at least there is some conspiracy between Russia, Turkey, Azerbaijan to destroy Armenia. But no one explains why there is this conspiracy. And the most important question, if there is a joint conspiracy between Russia, Turkey, and Azerbaijan to destroy Armenia, then why Armenia is not destroyed yet? If someone thinks that because the much respected president of France are putting some Armenian text in his Twitter and Facebook account, and thus he is resisting jointly Russia, Azerbaijan, Turkey anti-Armenian conspiracy. Okay, I don't know, but this was strange for me because I had a feeling that okay, if you see Azerbaijani soldier 500 meters from your house, you should not say, okay, let's kick out Russian soldiers from here because you should understand that it will be a very complicated process to bring French soldiers in Armenia. French soldiers even left Mali. Well, we know that this Sahel region is much more important for France for a lot of reasons. But even the French took out these troops from Mali. But in any case, regarding other travels and meeting with some international experts, a few words about global geopolitics. So mostly non-Western experts, and by speaking about non-Western experts, I mean Russians, Chinese, Indian, Iranians. They all agree that a unipolar moment and this absolute hegemony of United States is over. But also they agree that there is no other power who is able to take leadership because no one has as much power as United States had in 1990s.
Do you mean military power?
Military, economic, jointly, everything. So now we live in a world when there is no clear leadership because United States is not able to play the role which it played in 1990s and early 2000s. No other country has so much economic military power to play the same role. So we live in a world without clear leadership, and this makes things complicated. And this also trigger, instead of globalization, so-called regionalization, when we see as an appearance of different regions with different norms and rules. Like instead of one globe under these liberal rules, so-called liberal international order, we will see different regions governed by different rules and norms. Then it was interestingly to hear, for example, from Indian colleagues, that India is against to return to the unipolar world. First, they believe that this is not possible, but even if theoretically it's possible, India is against that we will go back to the 1991 to this unipolar moment. But Indians are also absolutely against new bipolarity between US and China. They say, okay, no new bipolar world dominated by US and China, and everyone else should be junior partner of either US or China. They say that, okay, India believes the world should be multipolar and India should play equal role there along with United States, China, Russia, maybe with EU, or if currently EU is under much more US control. So this is on global geopolitics that first, no return to the unipolar world, no hegemony because US is not able to do what it did, and no one is able to do now or in a midterm future what US did in 1990s. So more unstable world and more rivalry between big players, rivalry also between middle powers for regional hegemony, like between Turkey, Iran, and Saudi Arabia for hegemony in the Middle East. So more complicated world, potentially establishment not only Iron Curtain but also digital curtain, like to create at least two different digital technologies or digital worlds dominated by Western and Chinese technologies, and potentially Russia, Iran, and some other countries can also be covered by this Chinese digital technology. So there were discussions that also there will be digital curtain, not only physical curtain. Some believe that now we are in simultaneous, there are simultaneous two Cold Wars on the way, one Cold War between Russia and United States, and second Cold War between United States and China. But at the end of the day, there is an understanding on strategic level, and even by some American experts, that yes, unipolar moment is gone. So at the end of the day, this multipolarity is inevitable.
And let me clarify, Benjamin, when you say a
Yes.
digital curtain, you're talking about basically the segmentation of the internet.
Something like that, yes. That even there was discussions that theoretically, okay, now we have two main app stores. Yes, it's a Google Play for Android apps and this Apple App Store. Yes, but there was discussions that at the end of the day, we will have the situation when there are applications which you cannot download from Google Play, from Android or iOS app stores, or there will be many applications which you can, for example, download from App Store or Google Play, but they will not work in Russia and China. And simultaneously, there will be separate app stores. And by the way, as far as I understand, China already has its own app stores. For example, Huawei has its app store, Xiaomi has its app store.
That's right.
So there will be different app stores with different apps. And one app, you can download it in Russia, but it will not work in United States, or you can download it in United States, it will not work in China, or vice versa. You can download it from Chinese App Store, but it will not work in the United States. So this will create a mess also in digital technologies. But at the end of the day, a unipolar world is over, multipolarity is inevitable, but there is no clear understanding. What does mean multipolarity? Does it mean jungle, when everyone fights against everyone, there are no rules, and it's a real jungle? Or multipolarity means that yes, there are different poles, different spheres of influences, but also there are some kind of cooperation, at least to tackle with global issues like, I don't know, climate change, food insecurity, pandemics, transnational crime, and etc. So there are no clear understandings. What does this multipolarity mean? It could be jungle, when everyone fights against everyone, there are no rules, no norms, and it's total collapse. Or it could be some sort of cooperation.
So let me also ask you if you heard anything about the South Caucasus and Armenia region at your events.
Okay, the main thing which international actors want to understand is Armenia as a state, and is Armenian society, or at least active part of Armenian society, are they ready to suffer additional pain not to give up Artsakh, or they are not ready? So there is no clear understanding outside Armenia. And there are, or I would say this way, there are no clear understanding, and there are different perceptions. Some believe that Armenian society is not ready to suffer or to feel additional sufferings for not giving up Artsakh, but some believe that no, Armenian society is not ready, and Armenian society does not want to face additional sufferings because of Artsakh. And people outside Armenia want to have this clear understanding of this question.
I think just the fact that that question is asked is chilling. It's like, would you like your mother to live or not? I think that
Or are
basically,
you ready to suffer to save your children? Put it in another way, somehow, or suffer more, because of course all understand that Armenians, they are suffering for the last maybe 34 years, but the issue is, are they ready for additional sufferings? It's not the case that the last 30 days, 30 years we were enjoying our life. Definitely there were
yes.
sufferings, but the issue is, are we ready for additional sufferings or future sufferings?
All right, we're going to leave it there for today on that cheery note. Thank you, Benjamin. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Aspet. Thanks, Hovik. It's always a pleasure to be with you.
That's our show this week. We hope you found it informative. Now go find us on social media and follow us. Go, go, go! We'll talk to you next week.